Good morning to all of you. A very warm welcome to all of you. Now I request our team to start the proceedings, please.
For 1 minute.
Okay. Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen. Today we are into the second day of the international webinar on how to turn engineers into entrepreneurs. And the first day we have Dr. KPJ Reddy sir as well as Dr. Soman sir on the first day. Today we have the chief guest and keynote speaker, Mr. Santhosh Kurup sir, CEO of ICT Academy of Kerala, and keynote speaker Mr. John Mathew will be there. And also we will have Mr. CJ George, the inauguration, who was actually yesterday could not join, so it's been rescheduled for today. Professor KV Jayakumar sir, the panel leader, also will be here with us. Along with us, Dr. V. Baselios, the Professor and Director of Center for Applied Research in Hyderabad is also with us. Myself, Dr. P. Sojan, the panel member and the moderator. Along with us, our coordinators, Mr. Mahesh KM and Mr. Jindo Mathew is there. Welcome to all the participants for this program, and we are ready to start. And over to our team members for starting the proceedings, please.
We will start this function with a silent prayer. All participants are requested to sit in their respective seats and pray silently. Good morning. I will highly welcome everyone to the second day of our international webinar on how to turn engineers into entrepreneurs, organized by IEDC MBITS and COVID-19 cell of Baselios Institute of Technology and Science, MBITS, Kothamangalam, Kerala, India, in association with VSSC, ISRO, and Kerala Startup Mission. Let me again remind all the participants that our webinar would be going live through Facebook, and any questions regarding talk can be asked in the comment box. Let me invite Dr. P. Sojan, Principal of Baselios Institute of Technology and Science, Kothamangalam, Kerala, India, and panel member and moderator of this international webinar to welcome the gathering. Over to Sojan, sir. Sir, please.
Good morning to all of you, and thank you very much for introducing. And today we have our chief guest and keynote speaker, Mr. Santhosh Kurup, along with Mr. CJ George, the MD and promoter of Geojit Financial Services Limited, and Mr. John Mathew, the co-founder and CEO of Riafy Technologies, and panel lead, Professor KV Jayakumar, professor from NIT Warangal, and also Dr. V. Baselios, the Professor and Director of Center for Applied Research, Hyderabad, and our coordinators, Mr. Mahesh KM, Mr. Jindo Mathew. And respected all these panel members, speakers, various principals, directors, and deans, professors, younger students. You're all welcome to this program, and we are very privileged to host this program along with the VSSC, Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, ISRO Trivandrum, along with the Kerala Startup Mission. Thanks to all our organization for jointly hosting this program. And this will be a great day for particularly the younger generations. And any questions, definitely, as we said, you can ask through the chat box. Also, we will give you the direct question. The program is as follows. Every speaker will be taking 25 minutes of their timings, and later on, we will have the question and answering sessions. The program will be from 11 to 1 o'clock. Thank you all, and over to introducing our chief guest of the day, please. Thank you very much, and welcome once again all of you for this program.
Mr. Santhosh Kurup. Mr. Santhosh Kurup heads the Public-Private Social Enterprise ICT Academy of Kerala from March 2014. As a joint initiative of the Government of India, Government of Kerala, and leading ICT companies in the country, ICT Academy has been involved in imparting various skills programs in the state. As the Chief Executive Officer of the company, Santhosh provides leadership and operational rigor for the organization. Mr. Santhosh is also part of the cross-functional team of Department of Electronics and IT GOK, and is appointed by government as the Special Officer for Space Park Initiative. Before joining ICT Academy, Mr. Santhosh was the branch head for TCS Limited and was responsible for building and managing the operations of its delivery center in Kerala. With an overall experience span of over 22 years in corporate and government, Mr. Santhosh has performed multiple roles both in India and abroad. He is a member of multiple education and industry forums, and he partakes in the leadership mentoring forums. Mr. Santhosh holds a bachelor's degree in electrical and electronics engineering and master's degree in instrumentation and control engineering. He also holds executive certification in senior management program from IIM Lucknow, certification in organizational change management and software quality assurance. Over to Mr. Santhosh Kurup. Sir, please.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
You are audible, sir.
Firstly, I would like to thank Dr. Sojan Lal and the team from MBITS for having me here. Even though I strongly doubt whether I am eligible to be a chief guest for such a auspicious function where I could see a lot of elite speakers and panel members and participants. So I am really humbled for the kind gestures that MBITS have showered upon me. It also puts me into a bit of a spot because I need to step up to the occasion and live up to the expectations that you all have set. I wanted to thank you for choosing a very, very interesting topic about converting engineers into entrepreneurs. I think if you look around the world and especially in the country, we see a lot of engineers who excel into entrepreneurship and innovation. So it becomes quite natural that engineering graduates and engineering students are a natural choice of becoming entrepreneurs. So what I will do is I understand that this is a 3-day series and a lot of eminent people has already spoken and will be speaking after me. So I will try to make a small presentation within the allocated time and talk about what's kind of things that are happening in the world with the pandemic scenario that we are in, and how does that impact our new normal, and how engineers can perhaps utilize that as the kind of focus that I'm looking at. So allow me to make a small presentation. I'm just getting into that.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Thank you. So engineers to entrepreneurs is the topic, and I will just take a few slides on talking through the new normal and what does it mean to the world. Okay. Some of the things that you will hear, interestingly, there is an expert group who has cut this era into two, which is called BC and AC. BC is before COVID and AC is after COVID. So we would have heard the original term of BC and AD. Now I think we are going to live through BC and AC, which is very, very interesting, and more importantly, that is real. So we'll see what's happening before itself and what's happening now and post this scenario. And I also picked up a very interesting study from Forbes about the 5 critical skills of the future, which is cutting across domain, and it is also important not just for engineers as entrepreneurs, but also as professionals and self-reliant employees. Why do we think that you are best positioned to be entrepreneurs? That's a couple of interesting slides I wanted to share from what I have seen as well as what experts are saying, and picked up a couple of local examples which I found it to be interesting, and I was personally involved in working with them and have seen them doing extremely well. So I will share a few of those things. This is what I am trying to share now, and if time permits, more things could be possibly shared across. Okay. So trends that started much before COVID, I don't think it is something new. Many of you would have already discussed this and seen it. One of the important trends in the industrial world is obviously the industrial revolution itself. So the industrial revolution is in action for almost 2 centuries now, and we have gone through the revolution 1 in the early 18th century to the revolution of industrialization through electrical discovery of electricity to discovery of computers and electronics, leading to Industrial Revolution 3. And from the mid 70s onwards or early 80s onwards, computers came into action and IT started to pick it up. And as we see, we are into a revolution called Industrial Revolution 4.0, where the physical boundaries between the virtual world and the physical world is blurring a lot, and you could technically port everything that is happening in the physical world onto a virtual world. So taking advantage of the virtual world or the cyber world for the benefit of the physical and biological world is essentially what Industrial Revolution 4.0 is all about. So we are in the industrial IR 4.0, in another word people used to say, is in IR 4.0 stage, and it is in action for the last 6 to 8 years. But we were in a stage of accelerating that due to a lot of changes that are happening in the field of, especially in the field of technology. So I think that this is a trend that is already picked up way before COVID, and this is going to continue through COVID and post-COVID. We'll just see what COVID means to us for this. So Industrial Revolution 4.0 is pretty important and interesting aspect of change that is coming in. The second one is about in the IR 4.0, why it is so important is the fact that the fast digitization of services across the world. I mean, there was a very interesting slide, I picked it up, which shows about the world in 60 seconds, which is world in 60 seconds is in 1 minute. We are having 1.9 crore, right? 4.7 million videos being viewed, to 1.2 million views in Twitch, to 1,400 down. Of course, is going to come down due to the ban in India, because India has been the biggest subscriber of TikTok for that instance. But if you go across the spectrum, we would see that services are so understand, because ultimately entrepreneurship is all about solving problems that are in real world and using resources that are abundantly available around us. And technology is something which is going to be an important thing that you need to have an eyesight on. Now let's get into what's happening in the Indian context. This is a slide that I love. I won't go into the details of it due to time constraints, and many of it is something which you can always look into. What I will do is I'll pick up a few things. One is, when it comes to adoption of mobility as well as social media, India stands number 2, right, in its growth. More importantly, I think people who are watching should be very, very, very proud of it, and it also means a lot of responsibility. The average Indian population age is around 29.5 to 30, which means that we are a relatively young generation, and the power of young generation is amazing, and that is what is going to drive India's growth into the future. The next one I wanted to spend time on is about the point about rapid innovation. I'm not sure how many of us know that India holds around 900 odd MNCs who has put up their shops in India exclusively on research and development. Okay, these are multinational companies, came to India, set up their shops purely for R&D purposes, taking talent from India, mostly engineers, which again shows the power of the creativity and innovation quotient that Indian youths are possessing right now. So that's the kind of trend that has been visible in India. I won't go into the details again to the right side, but just understand that nearly 1 crore of population is going to be connected onto the digital world in the coming years. And the impact of it is the increased number of global startups, more beyond a lot of other things that is mentioned. Again, if you look at the statistics, I think India stands number 3 right now in the field of global startups. And we are fast tracking that. You will not be surprised if India inches into the top position fairly shortly, because of the kind of demographics that we have, the kind of talent we have, and the kind of opportunities that the government and other organizations are putting through. So that has been the change in the country that we live in. So the world of economy is being beautifully impacted through Industrial 4.0 revolution. Digitization is becoming a new normal, and the growth of India is powered by a lot of things, including the population that we are talking about, talking to you today. So these are the trends I would think has been happening even before COVID, and these are important trends that youth needs to be aware of. Now, let's get into the next one about what's changing now and possibly post-COVID. Okay, again, COVID is considered to be, in the term of economics, it's considered to be a black swan event. Black swan events are events which are never predictable, and we never know the impact of it. Even now, the world is struggling to find how it spans out. We just hope, and we just have models which are getting created and getting changed every day. So these are unpredictable events, very rare events, and the impact is also very, very huge, but unpredictable. So whatever I'm putting through is still based on some of the larger view of the world, but need not necessarily be true always. It could also change. But I thought, from being a technologist, I picked up something around technology. What we see during COVID and post-COVID is the acceleration of information technology domains, especially collaboration. I mean, this is a classic example. This must have been a seminar in MBITS and the beautiful campus of MBITS otherwise, but I think a lot of things are moving online, video everywhere, and classrooms are shifted online. So collaboration technologies are becoming very, very critical, and we believe that that is going to continue to accelerate and remain as a very key technology. Physical world is inaccessible by and large, and it needs a lot of support of technology. Hence, augmented reality, extended reality is becoming a very, very important technology area, which is fast tracking as we see. Contactless technologies and in IoT is another technology area that we are seeing to be fast tracking. Again, because of this pandemic, contactless technologies have seen a huge uptick on its implementation across the globe. Robotics and robotic process automation is another important area that has been seen across the world. Again, COVID is only fast tracking it. I was so happy to see one of my friends' robots, which is from Saya Robot, working in a couple of hospitals and providing services already, which we said that it may happen maybe 5 years down the line. So COVID has actually fast-tracked some of these things. So because a lot of things are moving online, we are also seeing that cyber security is going to become very critical. And finally, but not the least, data is going to be the new oil, or it's already considered to be one of the most precious things the world can have. So anything around data analytics, using data analytics for intelligent purpose is something that is going to see a huge traction. So IT is accelerating. A lot of IT related technologies and services are accelerating, which were already there as a trend, but we see COVID has accelerated those things. When it comes to domains, I think I didn't put a slide on that because it is very temporary. We see a few domains like travel, hospitality, tourism is not so showing uptick in the, at least in the short term to medium term, whereas healthcare sector is going to show a huge uptick in the coming years. Now, moving on, what's happening in the job scenario? This is very, very important. I think all youngsters, whoever is planning to, of course, of the whole lot, we see that around 10% may become successful in the field of entrepreneurship, but around 90% may have to still look for jobs, etc. So I thought it is important to see what's happening there. Jobs are shrinking due to automation and advancements of technology. So a lot of things are being automated as we speak, especially in the video world. Things are being automated very rapidly, and due to this pandemic, it has only increased the whole thing because now people, in the industry at large, and especially IT, information technology industry, and blue collar jobs, or rather a lot of white collar jobs, people could work remotely, and that has posed a new set of opportunities as well as new set of challenges. Opportunities for organizations to optimize their resources, human resources, whereas challenges for the labor market, where workforce is coming under a tremendous pressure. Permanent jobs are likely to go away by and large, and it will lead to a lot of part-time jobs, and we call something called gig economy, which is about freelance jobs are kind of emerging in a large way. Freelancing or gig economy, as I spoke, is something which was tracking well in the Western world, which was a trend in the past itself, whereas now it is going to accelerate even in the Indian job market. What it means is that people are able to take on tasks, or companies are going not just giving you jobs, but rather giving you tasks. You can work on that task with a fixed timeline, with fixed cost. do the task, finish it off. If the company is satisfied, they will pay for you. You move on from that X company task to maybe A company with a B task. So whenever you wanted to work, if you have the skill and if you have been rated high in the freelance market, then you can pick up a task, do it, move on, and maybe take a break in between, enjoy life, come back and do it. So it's more of a self-employment, that it is something which is becoming a huge opportunity, if not for, so full-time jobs, part-time jobs, gig jobs, entrepreneurship. That's how the whole career span is going to span out in the coming future. As I said, remote working options and virtual teams are becoming a norm, which also means that you don't have reservations anymore. You cannot have, okay, I will take people from only Kerala. No way. People can work from anywhere in the world. And it also again opens up opportunities for people here, because even if you're sitting in Kerala or Tamil Nadu, you still can apply for jobs somewhere in the North America or Canada and work from here itself. So those are opportunities and challenges that are coming up. Portable job roles inside the industry, we are seeing the rigid boundaries within departments are breaking away, and jobs are being ported from X department to Y department. So the staff functions are moving right into the field functions. Field functions may get back into the staff function. These overlaps are becoming quite normal. So these are some of the things that are happening from a job perspective, and I think the youths need to be aware of these things. Now, what's happening in the overall supply chain dynamics, it may look a little above your head in some way, but I think it is also important. Nations are looking more inward, including the countries like our own country and countries like US and UK. They are all looking at nationalization approaches. They wanted to bring in domestic producers and more jobs to domestic employee base and their own people. So that's something which is happening in the world. So I think we need to be aware of it. Reduced trust on China is something which is a reality now, and thus there are a lot of potential shifts in manufacturing, which also means that it's an opportunity for a country like India, where India is known for, when it comes to startups, we normally used to have 80% of the startups were from tech background or tech enabled startups. Now I think we will see manufacturing, hardware, and a lot more things coming up. Which also means that manufacturing is not like a switching on and switching off. Some of the experts on the panel also would know. It also comes with a lot of supply chain around it. So for example, one of my colleagues who is wanting to create he's innovating on creating the first metallic 3D printer based manufacturing units in Kerala. But unfortunately, the entire supply chain logistics for him comes from China, right from the small screws to the materials that is required to be used as powder for the printer is being imported from China. So even if he wants to set up a manufacturing base in Kerala, all other subcomponents to materials, etc., he still needs to find out a way in organizing those things. And with the new scenario, it has been an incredible challenge for him to organize those things. So, which again means that shifting is not easy, but at the same time, it poses a new set of opportunities for material manufacturers to subcomponent manufacturers and so on and so forth. So that is another reality that is happening during COVID, and it will continue in big way post-COVID as well. So that's a few slides that I wanted to share on the what's changing due to COVID. Let's look at some of the skills of the future. This is interesting study from Forbes, which has been released only a few months ago. And these are the 5 important skills they say as quite interesting for them. One is emotional intelligence. Of course, we might have talked about, when it comes to skills, we might have talked about technology skills and so on and so forth. But I think it is very important that across domains, these are the 5 skills which organizations like Forbes put it up as the top skills. So you will be required to work in very, very different environment, diverse geographical units will come together, remote working groups will come together. So managing the work pressure, managing the diversity is something which is going to be very, very critical for the new generation. And hence, emotional intelligence is something which the Forbes magazine put it as very, very important. The second one is creativity and problem solving abilities. Again, please do not think that this is only applicable for entrepreneurs. This is going to be applicable for even regular job seekers, because in the companies also, everybody is trying to become competitively advantageous or competitively trying to find an edge over others, and innovation and creativity is the only way to become that. So whether you are an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur within a company, doesn't matter, creativity, problem solving skills are going to be very, very important. Flexibility and adaptability, as I said, black swan events, natural disasters, unpredictable future is something which is going to be a new norm for all of us. So ability to change, shift and adapt to new environments and continuously learn and relearn is going to be a very, very critical skill for anybody for that matter in the future. Data literacy, as I said, more and more things are moving on to the digital space, and hence digitization and data availability is going to be an important aspect of life, whether it is in manufacturing sector to plant automation to banking and financial services to tourism. I believe that data is going to be key, and data analytics is going to be as basic as mathematics for engineers. So as engineers, I would strongly urge that whichever career options that you have, please make sure that you appreciate the new normal of being data literate and learn through those as new skills. And finally, I think across the sector, in IT or information technology is becoming a critical infrastructure in any domain. So hence, whether you are in civil, whether you are an electrical engineer or a chemical engineer, I think tech savviness is going to be very, very critical for you. So these are 5 important skills that Forbes put up for the youngsters as to be very, very critical for you to be successful in the future. Mind you, for teachers and academicians, in the past, we had a set of job roles that are available for the future, but we are required to educate our young generation or prepare our young generation to face uncertainties, because 60% of the jobs that we see now will not exist in 10 years from now. So it is highly impossible for the teachers of the current generation to prepare your students for the future, because all you see is an uncertain future. So how do you bring in uncertainty? How do you bring in or inspire your students to deal with uncertainty is going to be a very, very interesting academic challenge for teachers who are listening to this particular webinar. Now, I just move on. I wanted to say that you are the young generation who are seeing this presentation. I would think that you are better placed for being innovative and being entrepreneurs. Couple of evidences. One, this is a study that we conducted. Some of the characteristics of young generation that we have, or the characteristics of millennials as we see it, these are some of them. They are born with gadgets. You guys are born with gadgets. So you are much more tech savvy than any other generation. And if I go back, I just told that the future is going to have technology as a critical infrastructure. So you guys are already born with tech savviness, so you are better prepared than anybody, right? What I like about the new generation is you guys are much more open in your attitude. Small example is when we were studying, we used to bunk classes, but nobody else would know. And if somebody comes to know of it, it's a huge problem for us. But the new generation, I have seen bunking classes, going and watching movie and taking a selfie and putting it in the social media. So doesn't matter. So that's a kind of openness that I really feel that is important for leading into the future, because you should be in a position to, as I said, adaptability and flexibility is something which is a need for the future, because you will keep changing what you see in the world. And an open attitude is something which is very, very important for that. And I strongly believe that you guys have it. Now, you always wanted to prove yourself to be unique. Again, this is something that even the academicians need to understand. Uniqueness need not be standing first. So the new generation doesn't believe in standing first always. Of course, there is a small percentage of people who will love to be standing first. But invariably, right from the front benchers to the back benchers, they would love to be unique. They wanted to say that I am different. I am so and so forth. I am not this guy. I am not that guy. I have seen the generation talking that I am, if I take a Santhosh of new generation is there, they will say, I am not somebody, I am Santhosh, right? So that's the kind of pride that the new generation has been showing. So, and I am very, very proud of that generation. So you like to prove your worth, and that's exactly how entrepreneurship works. You're reasonably adaptable. Successful entrepreneurs are highly adaptable to the market needs. And I think you need to bring that as a character in you. You already have it. You just need to bring it up. You are better risk takers. Entrepreneurs are one of the biggest risk takers of all the time. So please understand this and please be ready for it. You already have it in your DNA. So it's just a matter of continuing to nurture it. So these are the characteristics of young generation that I think is very, very important. I just had one more slide, which this is my theory. I'll just quickly go through this. Why engineers can be good entrepreneurs. What does engineering do to you? Engineering is application of science and math to design and build solutions. That's what the definition of engineering is all about. You guys go through, or all of us have time immemorial. I think we had 50 plus subjects, 4 years, and n number of assignments, surprise tests, whatnot. And we also learn, God knows why we learn economics and other things, but the beauty is that we learn core subjects and multidisciplinary subjects. Let's look at what's entrepreneurship do. Application of engineering in designing and building commercial solution for real life problem is what is engineering entrepreneurship all about. Entrepreneurs are being tested every day. Hard work and perseverance is the key, which is what engineering students always do, right? Entrepreneurship is not single dimension. You need to learn and you need to have skills in multi-dimensional way. I think engineers by nature of studying so many subjects develop that inbuilt. So my theory is that engineers are good to be called entrepreneurs. Okay, I just quickly go through 4 examples of some local innovation in action. One is very recently this company called Novalt Board has won the world competition in being one of the best commercial boards available in the world. So Sandip is a friend of mine. He's a naval architect, groomed in IIT, but then he developed a scenario of doing something user-friendly at the same time eco-friendly. So Novalt Boat is a local innovation based out of Cochin. Very, very interesting case study here. He's running it successfully for the past 3 years in the Cochin Mattancherry route, I think. So if somebody is interested, please do get in touch with him. Very inspiring entrepreneur. Application. One of the local boys from Kozhikode, not so famous college, but came together and decided to challenge WhatsApp. Okay, there is something called WhatsApp for business, and these guys have come out with a very interesting solution, which is kind of challenging the foundation or the business models around WhatsApp. In fact, they have seen places. The government of Kerala uses an application called GOK Direct. So GOK Direct is an implementation from QCopy. This is another interesting innovation converted into entrepreneurship. There is a gentleman sitting in Cherthala in a small place in Technopark Cherthala called TechGensia. Recently, the country has announced a competition for finding an alternative to Zoom, because Zoom, they found that there are glitches and it may have a spying happening through China. So Government of India announced a 1 crore program for this. And they called in for papers. Around 40 odd companies turned around. They went to 2 rounds and they finally identified top 5 people to challenge to get the coveted prize. TechGensia is amongst the top 5 now. Very, very proud moment for the innovation and entrepreneurs in here. It's a collaboration platform using some very interesting features of both hardware and software. Now, lastly, I just wanted to draw your attention to James Mathew. He was a Microsoft employee. He was a vice president in Microsoft. Due to family constraints, he came down to Aluvai and worked from home. Microsoft allows such facility. And one fine day, he had this Newtonian moment where he found a lot of jackfruit falling in front of his house. And he started looking at how can I utilize this as staple food. Now, Jackfruit 365 is an amazing product from a techie who is doing something completely non-techie. And mind you, his product has also got patent, and he's coming out with something very, very medicinal in nature, which will address diabetes. His theory is that the unripe jackfruit is very good for diabetes, and he's working with some of the world's best health organizations to come out with that. But he has got a variety of some 12 to 14 products out of jackfruit. So again, now his whole supply chain is in Kerala. He has partnered with Eastern Curry Groups and then creating something very unique. So, I mean, I can keep going on a lot of such things. What I wanted to say through this is, one is you don't need to create something only techie. You can do something extremely useful, looking around and finding solutions from what is available in the nature. Second one is it need not be from big ticket, big item, studied in Harvard or Stanford. Some of these guys are very local, and many of them learn from not even in English medium schools, they learn from local language schools. So entrepreneurship and innovation can come from anywhere. And thirdly, if you have a mind, I don't think anybody can stop you. It just needs that passion and perseverance to pursue it. And these are classic examples of that.
Right.
So that's pretty much I wanted to cover on that. I have a slide on this on the myth of entrepreneurship. I know that the time is off, so I will just quickly put it across for you to read. I will not go through it. But last point I wanted to say, please understand that entrepreneurship is not an alternate career path for not studying, okay? Because you will end up deploying somebody who is more intelligent and more smart than you, which is going to be a disaster for you. Please don't do that. You will need to study well, take care of your subjects very, very importantly. With that, I just wanted to thank you for a patient listening. And I also once again thank MBITS for giving me an opportunity. Please make sure this is a pandemic season. Please make sure you follow government advisories and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Santhosh Kurup, sir, it is really an outstanding presentation. You covered from the past of COVID-19, started with the industry 1.0 to 4.0 with a very bird's eye view. And also the challenges for the hyper digital growth in India, where you mentioned that 900 plus MNCs are put up their R&Ds, and that it gives the importance of Indian generations particularly. And due to this COVID-19 IT acceleration, which you mentioned about, and also the very importantly, you said that not everybody is going to be an entrepreneur, maybe 10% or even less, but others will be 90% employed. It was a common presentation for all of them. And very importantly, you said that permanent job may not be existing, like people cannot look for government jobs or only permanent jobs. And the paradigm shift from one job to other is also very important. And also job priorities also changing, departments overlapping. This is very essence of any of the things. And hardware setup and the supply chain management, we said that are all the incredible challenges. And skills for the future is well established and everyone. And here I would like to make an additional point that regarding the Kerala Technical University, which they have done something very great. Since the 2019 admission onwards, the credits are only 160. Plus additional 20 credits if they take, they can go for the minor, like means any branch of engineering you choose, you can take, for instance, a computer science as a minor, or you take a computer science, you take mechanical as a minor. So that is something exceptionally this Kerala Technical University has done from 2019. And I hope that that will be really good and looking forward for the future also. And the examples which you quoted about, the local examples, I have traveled in this Novalta boat, I think 1.5 years before, and Jackfruit 365, where he shifted from the technological side to the healthcare sector. Even yesterday that Dr. K.P. Reddy sir also was mentioning about the shift of his own examples, and that's really great, sir. And thank you on behalf of all our MBITS and ISRO, VSSC and Kerala Startup Mission and all that participants. Thank you very much, sir. And over to our team members for introducing our next guest, Mr. CJ George, sir. Please, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let me introduce and invite Mr. CJ George. Mr. CJ George, a financial service industry entrepreneur, is founder and managing director of Geojit Financial Services Limited. Mr. George has a master's degree in commerce and is a certified financial planner from Financial Planning Standards Board, India. His directorships other than in Geojit Group companies include V-Guard Industries Limited, Aster DM Healthcare, and Kerala Infrastructure Fund Management Limited. Mr. George has many memberships in many professional bodies and is at present the managing committee member of the Associated Chambers of Commerce and Industry of India, New Delhi, the advisory committee member of Indian Clearing Corporation Limited, and a member of the syndicate of Kochi University of Science and Technology, KUSAT. Geojit was started in a converted garage with 4 people in 1987 as a partnership firm at Kochi. Then the other partner's stakes was acquired and became sole proprietorship after 5 years. Then when capital was required, so we took equity participation from Kerala State Industrial Development Corporation and took the company public in 1994. In 2007, one of the largest global banks, BNP Paribas, took 33% stake in the company. The company has 450 offices across the country and Middle East with 2,500 employers and 45,000 shareholders. Welcome, sir.
Over to George, sir. Good morning, George, sir.
Good morning to you. Sorry, I was muted by the admin.
Yeah, sorry, sir.
Okay. So, good morning to all of you, and thank you, Dr. Sojan for inviting me to this session. I was to be there yesterday, but I could not be there due to some technical problems. You know, this is mostly due to work from home, and I was working from my village. So my apologies for that. And I understand there are 500 plus participants. I must tell you that I'm not used to talking about entrepreneurship in the sense I do not go and talk about entrepreneurship to people. The basic reason is I don't want to, motivate people who are not ready to become entrepreneurs. It is nowadays very fashionable. So excuse me if I am throwing a cold blanket. If some people could be very excited about entrepreneurship, it's very good. But at the same time, there is a risk reward matrix in the sense the risk appetite of some people are likely to be much less than some other people. You know, every venture is an adventure. If I ask you one question, how many of you are ready to go for an adventure sports? I can tell you very few will be ready. That means every individual is not ready for an adventure or a venture or an enterprise. So that depends on the risk appetite. So some people will have the risk appetite. They are able, if somebody loses money, that person is okay. He can move on. He can move on and start something else. But there are people who will get into depression if they lose money. If there is a failure, they get into depression. That means they are not cut out to become entrepreneurs. So this is the precise reason that I don't go and promulgate entrepreneurship to basically young people. I heard Mr. Santhosh Kurup also talking about the importance of studies, education, etc. I will also fully agree with him because just because Bill Gates happened to be a dropout, please don't think that everybody can drop out and then make a Microsoft out of it. So this is my view on the talk about entrepreneurship generally. But at the same time, youngsters have an advantage. What is that advantage? There's a time cost. When you think of starting something new, there is a time cost and capital cost. Capital cost is not in the conventional terms I'm talking about. In the sense, you can afford to lose money when you are 25, 26, 30, etc. And you can move on in case you are taking risk. So that is not the case when you are at 45, when you are at 50, and when you think of starting something new. Probably it is very difficult for you to move on and then start something afresh. So the cost of capital, this I am talking about the intangible cost of capital. As far as an entrepreneur is concerned, it is much less when he is very young. You can move on. And the other one is the time cost. That's, there is a difference between when you start a business at the age of 25, when you start a venture at the age of 25, and when you start a venture at 45 or 50, because life cycle demand different types of requirements at different stages of human life. So at the age of 45, you will have family, you will have children, children's education, thinking about marriage, etc. So the risk-taking ability probably comes down at that point in time. So in terms of, time and the capital, young people can definitely take risk. But risk appetite is something that you need to test out. Ask few questions. Is it okay if I lose some money and then I can move on and start another one? Do you have, I think this is something very individualistic and very personal. So this is extremely important. People can come and talk about entrepreneurship. We encourage people to come and start new enterprises. That's very important. But at the same time, keep asking this question. Are you ready? Are you cut out to become an entrepreneur? Can you take risk? These questions you need to, find an answer. Then only you will be able to become a very good entrepreneur. The reason also I can tell you, from my own, okay, let me tell you, Dr. Sojan, I am talking about my own experience as an entrepreneur, also as a keen observer of other entrepreneurs, because I also work very closely with other entrepreneurs in the past. So I have seen how people work. So this is from my own experience. I am not talking about rocket science here. I'm basically talking about simple, straight entrepreneurs' experience. I used to ask people come to me for various reasons, youngsters, sometimes for capital, for investments, for funding. This is the word they use. They come for funding, the youngsters. So when you ask them, why are you starting a new venture? Some people, large number of them, they say one thing, that is they want to be their own bosses. They want freedom. They don't want to work for somebody else. I am of the view that it's very good attitude, but that is not enough. Given an opportunity, nobody wants to work for somebody else. Let me tell you. Given an opportunity, and if the opportunity is very good, nobody wants to work for others. So that is not, and that should not be the reason for somebody to start a new venture or somebody to start an enterprise. That should not be the reason at all. The freedom is not a reason, and not that thinking is not enough for you to make your venture successful. The other one people should really be bothered about is, an idea is not enough for an enterprise to succeed. There must be a value creation through that process. And that value creation should result in not value for you alone, a value for the consumer. If the consumer doesn't find value from a product that you are producing, then that enterprise has no future. So why consumer is willing to pay a premium or willing to pay a price is because the consumer has found value in a particular product or value in a particular service. So idea is not enough. People have, let me tell you, but those are sure of a value that you are going to deliver, and that value should be fetching a price for you, basically a premium price for you. Then only you can grow your organization, and it should have, what I am saying is, it should have market. I will tell you an example. If you look at gold loan companies in India, the top players in gold loan business in India are from Kerala. So they are big players in India's so these companies are coming out with the gold loan business and they're expanding, and mind you, their rate of interest could be double compared to a bank's rate of interest, or more than double. So bank should be giving a loan against gold at the rate of say 9-10%, and non-bank finance companies will definitely be charging at the end more than 20%. But they are growing because the consumers find a value there. What is that value? If you go to a bank, the bank will tell you, 2 days or at least 24 hours to give you a loan, and they will ask for too many documents. The non-bank finance companies, these successful financial services companies from Kerala, what they found out is that it is not friendly for the customers. So we should work for the customers. So what they do is they basically deliver the loan in few seconds time or few minutes time. There is a loan product from one company in Kerala. They will give the loan in 5 minutes time. Whereas a bank is giving sometimes within 2 days and a lot of basic documentation. I must also tell you, large number of the people who are pledging loan and taking pledging gold and taking loan are also relatively poor people, not ready to give, or they don't have the documentation. They don't want to go through this. So the message that I'm saying is value need not be from a new invention. Look at gold loan, it was there for hundreds of years, where whenever banks started, gold loan was started. But the value also is a value for which a customer is willing to pay a price. I think for an entrepreneur, what is important is the value for which a customer is willing to pay a price. That is the value. It is not the value that should be, basically recognized by the universities and engineering colleges and, technology associations and journals, etc. For you, the simple formula should be whether I am producing something or whether I am providing a service which is delivering value to a consumer. Simple question. And then you can charge a fee, you can charge a premium for that product. So it is not necessary. For example, why I am saying this is, you look around you, probably you will see hundreds of opportunities for value delivery. From existing processes, I can tell you all the companies are stuck with old ideas and old processes. Look at that very closely, and then you will find possibly value in all those processes. And that is how new businesses have come up. So you don't have to invent anything. For the purpose of starting a new venture, you don't have to invent anything. You probably may be reducing the delay in a particular process, or you are basically finding out a new process which is friendly to customers. So this is what I wanted to tell you. Don't think that invention is the only way for a new entrepreneur to start business. It is not required. Even innovation is in the process, but invention is not required for anybody to start. Let me tell you, engineers don't have to be stuck with engineering products alone. Engineers are very good in processes, and these processes could be in service industry. It could be in industries which are not, or maybe hospitality industry, or maybe healthcare industry. So you don't have to look at engineering product for your startup. You will find benefit elsewhere also, and the value elsewhere also. The other point I wanted to discuss is please don't start a company for valuation. Just because Byju's got this valuation, Flipkart got this valuation, don't have that feeling that you can start a company and then go to an investor and then you will get this fancy valuation. Those days are not there. There are lucky people, but let me tell you, an investor is looking for a scalable idea that generates value to consumers. That is what an investor is looking for. And for that, he's not going to give fancy, kind of a premium and fancy valuation. So you should be ready to show to the world that you have a product or a service which is valuable. The moment you are ready and the moment you demonstrate that value to a consumer, that is a demonstration to an investor also. Investors will come to you. You must always remember one thing. When you go to an investor, you get less value. When investors come to you, you get very high value. So what is that you need to do for investors to come to you? When your product is good, when your service is good, when your idea is good, when it is growing, investors will chase you for their investment and you will get fancy valuation. So just by bringing out an idea, don't go around the investors and look for valuation and funding, etc. You must have the capacity to dirty your hands, the capacity to invest some amount of money if required. Let me also tell you very clearly, you don't need money. Money is not a constraint today at all. Capital is absolutely not a constraint. If you have a viable idea, there are umpteen number of people who are willing to fund you, but don't think that they are going to give you premium of Flipkart or Byju's right from the beginning. If you have that mentality and the idea is good, there are people. So this is something I have seen. A lot of youngsters come to us for investment and we look at opportunities, but my experience is this: their dream about valuation is what is driving them. Whereas as an investor, what I am looking for is a passionate entrepreneur who is passionate about his product or passionate about his service. That is the entrepreneur whom I am looking for, with whom I am ready to invest. If somebody is looking for, dream valuation, we just show the door on the same day itself. I have also invested in some startups and entrepreneurs, and I lost money. That is also the reason I am telling you from my own experience. The other one, it is basically about the second stage. I also have a successful start and your business.
I think looks like there is some technical delay. Just stay online, please.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
So I'm sorry, I was, although I had another, instrument on, I was muted from the admin.
Okay, sir. Go ahead, sir.
So I was on this topic, what I have seen with some entrepreneurs who are successful in the beginning. So these entrepreneurs, they want valuation. Yes, valuation is fine. We invested funds. Then second stage funding, the company is running into, minor losses or minor difficulties. he wants second stage funding to survive, but then he is this particular entrepreneur is very fussy about losing control. He feels that if if his stake comes down below 50%, he will lose control. So he is not willing to come down below 50%. That means essentially he wants a higher premium for investors to put money in his loss-making company. So here his only argument is, he wants premium because he wants control. He doesn't want to dilute his stake. And finally, this company, which has invested around 20-30 crore, has gone into bankruptcy. So I am of the view that entrepreneurs who have confidence, who have good idea, who have good service, they just should not bother about control. Control in today's world is intellectual control. Control is not through, your majority stake. This is what I learned from capital market as well as from my own experience. Even if you have 50%, 60%, 70% control, that just doesn't help. If you have intellectual control on the organization, the people, then you don't have to worry. So this is something people need to, if at all somebody who is hearing me today, who have started something and then looking for second stage funding, let me tell you, forget about control. Always think about your company. If you are always thinking about your company, there will be people who will come and invest money in your company. The other one is also very important, which is about the ecosystem for entrepreneurship. This is extremely important, and people should be, very careful about that dynamics. What is wrong about India, and particularly wrong about Kerala society, is that we have not started appreciating failures. If somebody fails in a business in Kerala today, it's improved a lot, let me tell you. It was very bad 40 years ago, 30 years ago. When I was starting a business, I did not even tell my parents. Only after 6 months of starting my business, only I told my parents. I knew that they will not allow me. So, because that was the kind of, mentality of the people. The reason is nothing. The reason is if he fails, then he will be an outcast. So this is the kind of, doing something. They might fail, they might succeed, but they must be appreciated for what they did. They have taken risk. They have taken a risk, and they might fail, but we must appreciate. This is the difference between an ecosystem for entrepreneurship in US and the ecosystem, the social ecosystem for entrepreneurship in India. So when I talked about whether you are ready to start an enterprise, this was something that was in my mind. You should be knowing that, you should be, in fact, you shouldn't be worried about what others think about you, because maybe your business ideas will fail first time, second time, third time only it will become very successful. That is how almost all entrepreneurs are. Every enterprise doesn't succeed. Every venture doesn't succeed. So they move on. They move on with another idea and they make it work. So this is something you need to keep in mind. Number one, all the aspiring entrepreneurs, all those people who are non-entrepreneurs, in my view, including the teachers. I think we have a duty to tell people that we need to appreciate people who are taking risk. Anybody who takes risk can fail, but that's okay. They have done something. They have taken risk, and we should have that capacity to motivate them. That's basically very important for developing the ecosystem for entrepreneurship. In my view, this is the only reason, and this is the single most handicap for a society in Kerala, why we don't find so many entrepreneurs. If a private company advertises for the post of peon, for the post of clerk, you will get 50,000 applications. The reason is this: people do not have the willingness to accept failures. This is my request to MBITS as an institution, and teachers particularly. You need to inculcate the habit among all youngsters that failures are not bad. So not everybody will succeed in the first attempt. The other one I wanted to tell you is that you should also know that exit is equally important like starting a venture. You have an idea, you started the business, you started the enterprise, it is growing, but you are of the view that today I should not be the person to take it to the next level. I don't have the managerial, because the idea stage, you could be a technocrat. You may have probably deficient general management skills. Who knows? So at every stage, this can happen to a very large enterprise also. Every stage, an entrepreneur should know a stage at which if he has to exit, he should exit. This is something entrepreneurs normally fail because they are so passionate about their company. They don't want to retire. They don't want to exit. And finally, the business will suffer. So this can happen, initially after 2 years, after 3 years, you want to exit and you can move on to another company. This is another business idea. This is how people should do, and people should continue to do that. Finally, I have one most important point to tell you. That is, please don't use any shortcuts. People will advise you with all kinds of shortcuts. Please don't ever fall for it. Who knows? You can grow your business into a large enterprise. For you to grow your business into a large enterprise, you should not adopt shortcuts in documentation, shortcuts in anything. For example, I know people normally think about all kinds of shortcuts whereby they bypass rules, bypass regulations, bypass tax regulations, etc. But that is not going to help for final long-term growth. And you must find your partners who are credible. When I say this, I must tell you the reason. When you start a new enterprise, you are very young, you don't have the track record, you don't have the credibility. But when you select a credible partner with you, for example, an auditor, or somebody who has written a business plan for you, if they have credibility, that means the investor or other stakeholders will look at you as somebody who is not ready to go for shortcuts, and somebody is willing to go for systems, processes, etc. So that will add to your credibility. When you have a good respected chartered accountant as your auditor, you are sending a message that I'm not here for any shortcuts. I want to grow my business for long term. So this is extremely important. This is one advice I want to tell you. When you think about bribing somebody to get something done fast, maybe momentarily look attractive. But I must tell you that's the worst thing you are doing, because you are an entrepreneur stepping into a wrong world. You will spend a lot of your time thereafter because of the complications coming out of it if you continue to do that. Don't ever think that the successful entrepreneurs are people who are bypassing rules and regulations. This happened in the past. I will also tell you one example and stop here. That is, if we divide modern India's history in terms of the growth of business, we had pre-1991, that is the license Raj, regulator Raj period, and post that period. Before 1991, You know who were the richest people in India, richest businessmen? They were, of course, Reliance was there at that point in time, but not there on top. So there was Tatas, Birlas, Goenkas, Singhanias, Thapars. These were the richest people. They have been richest, you know, over a period of decades and decades. But when we opened up for new ideas and new promoters who are not willing to bypass the rules, regulations. They are willing to go through the right route and focus on the business. And that is how, you know, so many of today's 10 richest Indians, if you take, these are all people who have come from, you know, post-liberalization area. Other than this, I must tell you, other than Ambani's and Reliance Industries, because we need to, when we talk about India and the contemporary business history of India, for most comparisons, we need to exclude Reliance, and Reliance is an extraneous factor, and then see the history. And I can tell you, this is how companies really grew in the country. There is no scope for Dr. Sojan, am I audible?
Sir, I am audible, but time is also coming up, sir.
Okay,
Audible.
right. So I conclude by saying that please don't go for any shortcuts in your business. You may be starting a small company, small enterprise, and no shortcuts in the life of that enterprise. This is what I wanted to tell you. I'm extremely grateful that I'm invited to address all of you. And thank you, Dr. Sojan, and thank you other, very well-known, learned speakers who are here. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Mr. C.J. Jose, sir. And you started with the very fundamental things for the youngsters: time, cost, and capital cost. And also the very important thing which you said during the whole presentation was customer focus. The realistic valuation, customer focus, and you need not be intellectual or anything. You can find out a business of your own. I think during the panel session, I may ask you a question that how successful you are, because this you're on Geojit Financial Service, the same service was existing even before also. So how you reposition and you start that success story, you can also tell in the question and answer section, sir. That will be so much beneficial for our audience also. And again, no shortcuts, regulations, and from 1991 onwards, the post-liberalization period, how the successful businessman came out also. It was a really wonderful and exciting presentation, sir. We will go for the third speaker and we'll come back to you, sir, the panel discussions. Over to Grayson for introducing the next keynote speaker, Mr. John Mathew. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let me invite the next keynote speaker, Mr. John Mathew. So John Mathew is the CEO of Riafy and serves on its board of directions. Engineer John is for all design of Riafy, including the look and feel of Riafy app, user interface, intelligent algorithms, data projects, as well as new ideas and future initiatives. Since 2014, John has led Riafy's design team, which is widely regarded as one of the world's best on Android. The team won India's first top developer and Editor's Choice Award on Google Play in 2016. He holds a patent in relational intelligence, which is at the heart of Riafy's innovative products, including the user interface applications and frameworks. In 2018, relational intelligence
there is no choice other than doing good.
Was deployed to save more than 35,000 people affected by the century's worst floods in Kerala.
If it's possible to incorporate, you can incorporate it. Otherwise,
Grayson, go ahead. Please unmute and go ahead, please. Grayson, please unmute and go ahead, please.
Okay, sir. Mr. John Mathew earned a Bachelor of Technology degree from SNGCE, where he was the best outgoing student. As an undergraduate, he twice won the Student Engineering Award for his work on relational intelligence. He is a two-time TED speaker and an official invitee to Google I/O. John was instrumental in creating the growth strategy that propelled Riafy's cookbook to the #1 position in India with more than 6 million users. Over to you, sir.
Welcome, John. Over to you, John. Yes, John.
Hello.
Yes, John.
I'm trying to share my screen. I think host is disabled screen sharing. Can you quickly try and see?
John, you can send it to Mr. Sojan Lal or the admin. They will administer.
I think he has logged in 2 devices. Please make him as a
Sir, it is ready, sir.
Okay.
You are ready. You can continue, sir.
All right. Yes.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's coming? Okay.
Yeah, correct. You can go to the display mode. Yeah, good.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get on with it. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Mathew. So you guys get a quick intro about myself. So I'll be primarily trying to talk about some things that as entrepreneurs, we all need to think about. I think everybody, especially like in the last 3 or 4 years, there has been this huge trend of trying to create something of your own. So I'm going to try and talk about some of the important or simple things that you need to also kind of look about when you're trying to kind of create these products, right? So I think the first primary thing that I want to kind of call this: we live in one of the most dramatic times of this, probably like this millennia, right? Did anybody imagine in 2020 when when Abdul Kalam sir said like this is going to be an year where India is going to be revolutionary, right? A revolution did come in, but it's kind of very different. I think 2020 is like one of those pivotal points in our entire timeline. I think Santhosh Kurup sir also was mentioning before COVID, after COVID. So I think this is that point in our dramatic times. If we survive this, I think people who kind of innovate and then survive this particular year might own this decade or even the century, right? So I think a lot of people in this panel today, or like in the community today who are listening to this, all aspire to be either leaders, strategists, designers, artists, musicians, technologists, whatever you might be, right? People like us, we need to kind of step forward to create pieces of the future. I think that is very, very important. I think when you talk about being an entrepreneur, it's about being this creator, or like having the ability to kind of create something that you can offer to the world. So I think we are all future creators, right? So I think that is one important aspect that everybody needs to kind of think about. So if you look at our company, we work in a domain called relational intelligence. But at the end of the day, the algorithms and the design or like the product does not make much sense unless it makes people happy, or like it creates an impact in people's lives. So I think one of the biggest things that I personally like feel really proud about doing using technology is like the fact that we could deploy the relational intelligence algorithm to kind of map people during a flood, pin their locations, understand what they need based on their priority. Do they need food, medicine, water, immediate rescue? So all of that, we kind of plotted all of these information on a map and then kind of created and helped the government plan rescue and relief operations. So all of this is actually possible because of something called the craftsmanship mindset, where we try to create something and offer things to the world. Now, I want to kind of quickly open a question to everybody here. Like, how do you know if an idea is worth pursuing? I think that is one thing that I kind of, if you can kind of share in comments in terms of what you personally think is something that you need, or like how do you kind of identify an idea if it's worth pursuing? If I can quickly see comments on that, that would be very helpful. Like if anybody wants to speak, if any of the panelists want to speak. Any comments? Quickly.
Please open the comment box because a lot of good mornings, good afternoons were coming. So it was closed for a while. So
Okay.
we'll open it. So you can repeat the question so that they will answer.
All right.
That's
All right. I don't see the box yet. Anyways, yeah. So the primary question I'm trying to understand is like,
it is
what
coming up. If there is a value. So somebody has responded. Now it started coming.
Yeah. Okay.
Remain time. Yeah. If there is a value and it's coming. So other than good morning and good afternoon, please comment based on the question, please.
Okay. Idea should deliver economically. So it's like you need to make money, right? Okay. If a problem is faced by many people, okay, it's solving a real world problem. Okay. So how do you know, like, okay, feedback form, I would imagine, is you circulate a form with people and then try and understand what is the basic feedback. Okay. How do you really know? I mean, like, I have this idea that I want to kind of build with my friends into a company, satisfy the current market needs. Okay. Idea becomes worthy when you solve any critical world problem. Okay. Okay, so I think the primary thought is basically revolving around the fact that if a product is needed in the world and it can kind of drive revenues or financials, then it's a good idea to proceed. Okay, I think that's a general vibe, right? Okay, so I think before all of that, I think we should fundamentally start with the why, right? Why are you doing it? Is the first question that you should ask yourself, because that is the difference between an inspiring person's work and a mediocre person's work. Because inspiring people always understand why they are doing the things that they're doing, right? So you need to ask yourself, why do you think, or like, why should I and my team build this particular thing? I think that is very, very important. Once you have clarity in terms of why you're building this, then everything else will follow, right? I'll quickly follow with the second thing, right? Once you decide why you're doing it, then the next obvious question is, can you keep doing it for 5 years or more, right? Running a company, running a startup, or creating a company, creating a multi-million-dollar company or billion-dollar company is a long-term commitment. It's not something that can happen in 6 months. It's not something that can happen in 1 year. You have to invest at least 5 years of your life. So are you willing? So your why are you doing this? Is that compelling enough? Is that going to motivate you enough to do this same thing again and again and again for the next 5 years of your life? That is the second question you should ask yourself. If your team is motivated enough, if you feel they're motivated enough, then your why is accurate. You feel the why is going to be right. Then the last one is, why would people actually use it? Like, that is again aligned with the market choices. Why would people actually use it? So in order to understand that, you need to define what is called a promise to the user. So take WhatsApp, for example. It's one of the largest messaging platforms in the world, right? What does WhatsApp promise? Simple, fast, reliable, and secure messaging. This is their promise. It is going to be simple, it is going to be fast, it is going to be reliable, and it's going to be secure. This is what WhatsApp promises for messaging to everybody in the world. So these three things are very important. You should always start with the why. Why are you doing it? Once you get the why, then you need to understand if that is going to be motivating enough for you to do this for the next 5 years of your life. Then try and understand why people would actually use it. So define your promise. All right. Now, this is often very confusing because all our years in school as well as in college, we have always been taught to, or like, taught to think about this thing wherein like we are always concerned about what to do in life, what to do in the next 5 years, right? It's a slight switch to that, right? Like, rather than thinking what I should do, try and understand why you're going to do the next thing for the next 5 years, and then figure out how to do it. I quickly open up this question to, again, the audience, if you can come back and then comment them. What do you actually see in this particular slide? There are two images. What do you guys actually see? There are two pens. It's very obvious. So I want to try and understand what the audience sees in this two images. Quickly, please. I think we are running out of time. Ornamental pen. Okay. So the other one's a classic sticky C, by the way. I think the India, as in like, it's one of those pens that across India people have actually used quite a lot. Okay, fountain pen and a ball pen. Okay. Expensive and cheap. All right. Complex design, simple design. All right. What else? What else do you see? Decorative pen, ordinary pen, 2 pens. Okay. What is beyond the obvious? Purpose is the same. Okay. What is that? Like, yeah, purpose is the same, but the cost is different. Okay. Normal and designer pen, fancy one, normal pen, blah, blah, blah. Attractive and not attractive, creative and simple. All right. So I think if you look at these 2 pens, right? So what is a pen used for? It is used to write, right? Now, but one pen costs less than 5 rupees. The other one costs 1 million euros, right? One on the left is 1 million euros, whereas the one on the right is 5 rupees. Why is that? If the purpose or the why of both of these pens were to write, why is there a stark difference in the money associated or the value associated with these 2 products, right? So I think that is what, as an entrepreneur, you should be always looking out for, right? What is my product rather than what is my product? Why is my product going to be used? Why is my customer going to use my product? That makes it far more compelling when you look at or build your product out. So the one that you see on the right, that's the 5 rupee pen, is actually directly trying to write. Yeah, it gets the work done. It is simple, it's accessible, it's cheap. Anybody can use it. One on the right probably might be used once in a year to sign a document, which is €1 million, right? But that pen, the value of that pen is far more different. It's probably used by people as a status symbol. Having a pen like that immediately lets that crowd around know that, hey, I'm a rich, powerful person, and then I'm not like the ordinary guy. You should treat me with respect. Might be what the pen's purpose is for. So in both the cases, as entrepreneurs, or like that entrepreneur mindset should always be about understanding why people are going to use your product and then build it out, right? Both these things actually have almost the similar kind of utility, but there is a factor in Japanese, it's called Ataramiya Hinshitsu and Ryoketaki Hinshitsu. So these are concepts in terms of understanding the value beyond tangible in a particular product, right? Now, once you understand why you want to build it, then the process is about understanding how you are going to actually build it, right? Now, in order to actually build something, you need to understand a couple of things. One is you need to be able to see the larger picture, right? Again, based on our upbringing as school students, as college students, we have all been trained to think in silos, right? When we are studying maths, we basically focus in that silo, we understand maths. When we go to science, we basically, again, go into silo, understand science. We go to biology, it becomes another silo, right? And we have to excel in each of these silos. That's how we have always been taught. But being an entrepreneur, creating a passionate product or successful product is all about seeing the larger picture, right? Do not think in silos. Understand there is going to be a lot of moving parts. Think about a simple cup that you drink coffee from or drink tea from. What are the various processes that this particular cup would have actually gone through, right? Right from the deciding what manufacturing elements to use, what technique is used to manufacture, how do you make it glossy, or like how do you ship it? And again, from the distribution perspective, how is this thing going to be distributed around the world or distributed around the company? How are people going to ship it? What is the pricing strategy? So there is a lot of moving parts in terms of that product, from ideation to creation to distribution to people actually using it and then giving feedback. There is a lot of moving parts. So you, as entrepreneurs or as people who want to aspire to create products, always see the larger picture. Don't just think about coding it, or don't just think about creating it. Think about how people use it. How do you get to your first 1,000 customers? So see that larger picture, right? Once you see the larger picture, then it's a lot easier for you to break it down into these small things, right? That's this next process. Attain the clarity and then break it down, break the larger piece of the problem into small segments. Then create an action plan. How will you solve it? So there is this notion that engineers are all people who are very analytical, right? If you don't understand business, if you don't understand marketing, but you understand that is a key piece of your product, get people to build it. Come, like, hire people who are good at marketing, hire people who are good at building products, right? Hire people who are good at building finances. So understanding your product with clarity will allow you to break it down into smaller pieces, then bring people in to solve these smaller pieces if you cannot do it yourself, right? Then the last point is celebrate small wins. This is something that we always forget to do. Just look back into your life, right? I mean, you were promised a brand new bike or bicycle when you finish 10th. If you go to engineering and you finish 12th and then do good grades in 12th standard and then go to do a prestigious engineering course or like a medical course or like anything of that sort, then all of a sudden you will be promised something else, right? But during this period from first standard to 10th standard and 11th and 12th, you had so many different hurdles, so many different examinations, but nobody promised you anything for that, right? So that is a mindset that we people, as as we grow up in India, we have this thing. We don't celebrate our small wins, but that is very important in an entrepreneurial journey, because as I said earlier, it's a 5-year or a more than 5-year commitment, right? So if you don't celebrate your small wins, you cannot survive for 5 years, right? You need to have those incremental wins, celebrate them, be happy, then move forward. So that is very, very important. The next process is you do all these process, you understand with clarity, you understand the breakages, how do you find people into the sitting, and then you build this thing out, celebrate the small wins. So the process is very clear. Now the next question is, how do you become unignorable? How do you become a clear differentiator between what is existing in the market and how do you make yourself entirely different? As George sir said, about gold loans, right? It's always there, but somebody brought a twist to it, right? How do you become unignorable? When you do it in 2 minutes or 5 minutes, it's an unignorable thing, because the industry does not have a precedent wherein gold loans were given in 5 minutes, right? So that's an unignorable factor, right? So that is the next step. How do you become unignorable, right? Now, in order to do this, you need to have a craftsmanship mindset. So what is a craftsmanship mindset? It's about asking what you can offer to the world, right? So we are all living in a world of consumers. So nobody is bothered about creating anything. It's about consumption. I think hardly 5% in the world are producers or creators, where they create content, create products, create experiences which are consumed by the people, right? So when 95% of the people are consumers, we live in this community of consumers, we no longer actually are able to think like creators. So that craftsmanship mindset is something that as creators of products, we need to kind of bring in, right? What can I offer to the world? Don't ask this question, what the world will offer to me. So don't ask that question. Ask immediately, what can I offer to the world? Right? If the world loves what you're offering, your product or the success that you crave for will come towards you. Then the next one is in terms of taking challenging projects. This is something that I want you to start doing when you're in college, right? Volunteer to do something that is not conventional, right? Volunteer to do something that other people are not considering to do. Volunteer to do something that other people may not think is actually possible. Now, once you start doing this, you start developing a niche. You'll become this, person that can solve hard problems. Start doing this from college, so that by the time you finish college, you will have experiences building challenging things, right? Then if you feel like, okay, I have done X, Y, and Z things in my college. I have done challenging things. It could be right from a small project all the way to your main project. It could be about hosting events in your college. It could be about, hosting meets with your friends, anything, any pet project, whatever it could be. Once you do that, then you have a hands-on experience before actually building your first company in terms of what you can actually build. Can I survive this for the next 5 years? So you'll get a better understanding of that. The final point in terms of being unignorable is daily deliberate practice, right? If you do not practice your skills or trade craft daily, you are not going to get better at it. Aim for 1% improvement. It does not sound like much, but if you improve 1% every single day, in 365 days, you will become 37 times better, right? So it's the power of compounding. It's like finance. You put it in a compound interest scheme, it is going to eventually increase in value. So deliberate daily practice. Try and increase 1% every day. Spend some time, spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you can afford every single day into practicing and sharpening your skills. Then learn new skills, right? The whole idea is to become rare and valuable, so that you as a person can bring something unignorable to this world. And the final point is in terms of never stop learning. This is the fundamental philosophy that as creators, you should all understand, because the world is always evolving. Nobody thought when you came into 2020, you'll be like this. Nobody said that New Year thinking we're all going to wear face masks and walk around, social distancing. Right? So the world is going to offer so many things at you. So if you don't constantly learn, constantly adapt, you will not survive, right? So everybody understands work hard to be successful, but you need to work even more harder to stay successful. It's not just about climbing the summit. In order to stay at the top of the mountain, be the number one in the industry, you have to keep working even more harder. Now, this is something that we all need to kind of embrace, because we are taught to, work hard to be successful. We have heard it so many number of times in school and college. But what happens when you're successful? When you score 95 or 100% in school, what happens after that, right? Because it stopped because it was a goal. It stopped. create a process that kind of keeps making you work even more harder to stay successful. And the whole point about this is the little things that you did right in order to attain success, you will start forgetting that when you become successful. Never do that. Always keep your eyes on the prize. The little things that brought you to success, keep doing it, keep getting better at it. The whole point is, to be God and goddesses of small things. Understand these little things in life, combine them together to form the larger picture, and always keep your eyes on the prize. Never stop learning. So that's the whole gist of what I wanted to convey. It starts from learning the why, then kind of moves on in terms of creating unimaginable, unignorable products. Then it kind of talks about never stop learning. So these three things is key in order to convert any idea into a product, because this is the primary difference that Joseph was also mentioning, right? Ideas is something that everybody has. Everybody has ideas. The whole point is going to convert this idea into a product. You need to understand there's a cost to it. That cost is the next 5 years of your life and daily deliberate practice. Thank you so much for your time.
John, it was really an amazing presentation. And the prime message you said at the beginning, that impact in people's life, that's a real great message. And from your own experiences, you made it to the people as the cookbook, all your products. And again, during the 2018 flood, that's the change the people's life. That's a great contributions. And also you said about the €1,000,000 pen and ₹5. That's one other thing. And 1%, if you can go on a continuous improvement, that makes you far ahead of the position in different stems. And also never stop learning. That's really a great message from your own examples. Thank you, Mr. John. And I will ask our panel lead, Professor Jayakumar sir, for any few observations. And then we'll take the questions, and then we'll go to Dr. Barla sir also in between. Professor Jayakumar sir.
Yeah, I think 3 amazing talks focusing on topics like, the most important thing is, this COVID has actually accelerated IT activities. So that is something which all of us have realized. And the changing job scenario, permanent jobs going away for part-time job, freelancing of jobs, inward-looking approach. That's another important thing that has come out today. And then, more opportunities for startups. I think that is something which all the 3 speakers have highlighted. And I really liked the 5 important suggestions by Forbes, having emotional intelligence, creativity and problem-solving abilities, flexibility and adaptability, data literacy, and tech savviness. I think these are all the present generation has all this. And of course, the new generations are very smart. I mean, that's what I find. I always feel each generation is smarter than the previous generation. Just as we are smarter than our parents, our children are smarter than us. So all these people can, the attendance has been pretty good. And I think we have really, the 3 speakers, I think different age groups, and who have attained a lot of success themselves. One an engineering background, other one is a commerce background, a third one a young, upcoming, dashing engineer who has made relevance in the society, especially in the floods of Kerala. I think amazing 3 speakers, and the audience must have really got their time's worth. So let me thank all the speakers for their excellent inputs. And we also kept to time. It's not very delayed. We are kept to time, and I think we'll have time for more questions from the audience. I think that is more important now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. And over to our team for the first question. Then we'll come back to Dr. Barla, sir.
Okay, sir. The first question is to Santhosh, sir. Sir, may I?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay. First question is that, how do you think this COVID pandemic affects the just begun entrepreneurs?
I think, to be completely honest with you, all businesses are right now running a bit on slow steam. That is because this pandemic is something that this generation has never faced. So we are also struggling to figure out a way of coming out. Having said that, I think 6 months into the whole steam, natural adaptation of individuals have come up. So we are slowly but steadily starting to see progress. So as entrepreneurs, if you are in tech areas, I think tech businesses, we see a lot of uptick in the tech domain. In terms of other domains, we see an uptick in the healthcare domain. So if you are an entrepreneur working on healthcare sector, we are seeing an uptick there. If you are into the banking financial services, we still see an uptick there, very interestingly. If you are in manufacturing, I think it is a wait and watch. It may turn out to be a huge opportunity for India. So we believe that there may be an opportunity coming our way. If you are able to manage as I said, the whole supply chain logistics out there. But if you are in hospitality, travel, and tourism area, I think it is at least temporarily you will have to pivot out, use your capabilities, use your resources to put out something in other sectors which are actually flourishing. If you are in luxury goods, oil and natural gas, again, there is a challenge. We see that it may temporarily be running slow. So again, you may want to pivot temporarily into utilizing your resources elsewhere. So this is my view of what we see from here on various domains and various technologies.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. The second question is, how do you see the startup scenario of Kerala in the future?
Oh, Kerala, I am very strongly positive about Kerala, primarily because of the governmental support that we have in Kerala. So I think tomorrow you have a fantastic speaker coming again. The Startup Mission CEO himself is there. And I was also very closely associated with Startup Mission on a number of occasions. So Kerala is supported by government very strongly. So you have a strong handholding of government. IEDCs, in fact, MBITS, I think this is an initiative from IEDC itself. So IEDCs is a very strong example wherein we are catching entrepreneurs at a very young age and developing them moving forward. In fact, even at the school levels, I believe KITE is doing a lot of initiatives to promote innovation and entrepreneurship at that level. And by and large, compared to a lot of states amongst at least the southern to middle central of India, I think Keralites are much more entrepreneurial in nature compared to many other states. So that is there in our DNA. So combining that with the support of handholding from government and the kind of initiatives that even academic institutions are taking, I believe Kerala is very strongly poised to grow.
Okay, thank you, sir. The next question is to George, sir. Sir.
George, sir. Mr. CJ George, sir.
Okay, sir. May I?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you have to say to young entrepreneurs who struggle for an initial capital or investment?
Sir, is the question is clear, sir?
I think sir's mic is on mute.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Please,
okay, sir.
Yeah, we can hear you, sir. Now you repeat the question, Anu, please.
What do you have to say to young entrepreneurs who struggle for an initial capital or investment?
I didn't understand the question. Can you repeat again?
Okay, sir. What do you have to say to young entrepreneurs?
What do you have to
say to young entrepreneurs who struggle for an initial capital or investment?
Okay. Okay, it's very interesting question. I also made a statement that capital is not a constraint these days. I must tell you that there are various forums today available. For example, Thai Kerala is a forum of entrepreneurs. It is run by successful entrepreneurs, around 70. Almost all successful entrepreneurs from Kerala are in the charter list as chartered members. So they have this annual conference and occasional conferences to basically provide a platform to youngsters to demonstrate their ideas, to pitch for funding. So if there is something interesting, I am very sure people are willing to put in money today. That's not an issue. So TIE Kerala will be, that is one suggestion I will give to you. TIE Kerala has a platform. Go to them with an idea. There are so many investors there, so many entrepreneurs there, successful entrepreneurs. They will be very happy to look at.
Thank you, sir. Anu, next question.
Okay, so the next question is to John Mathew, sir. So may I?
Yes, please.
What was your mindset while you developed software that saved almost 35,000 lives?
So I think that's again attributed to the way we have been designed or like helped to think from our school. So we have always been encouraged to kind of create things that are very helpful to the community. So I think this story goes back, I think, a couple of years, 2018. So during that flood, a couple of our founders, so we are a six co-founding team. There are 6 people in our co-founding team, and out of that 6 people, 2 people actually live very close to the river. One is in Kaldi, the other one is in Totua, so it's like very close to the Periyar River. So as the flood came around, so I think a lot of us, we have actually never experienced flood basically. I think the only person in our entire founding team who has actually, has first-hand experience is one of our co-founders, Neeraj from Alappuzha. So like during this whole period, so Neeraj calls me up in the evening and he says, John, we are not able to call or contact Joseph and Srinath. So both of them are the ones who are like, living close to the river. So we have not been able to close them. And then Neeraj was like, it's already being very difficult to kind of try and understand how different people are reaching out for help. There's a lot of people reaching out for help on Facebook. Some are sending WhatsApp messages. There are people who are posting on Facebook. There are people posting on Twitter. So everything that people could try, people were actually posting all of those information out there. And then there was a huge problem in terms of duplication of this content. So he was like, we need to kind of try and create something that can kind of help understand which people require food, which people require rescue, which people require medicines, and then try and create a map that can plan rescue routes. So he called me up and said this. So I told Neeraj, I think we can build it using relational intelligence, but do you think it will actually be used, right? Because even if we build this thing, if we cannot give it out to any government institution, we cannot actually deploy it. So would it actually make sense? Is my first question. I asked him that. And he was like, let's not think about it right now. Let's start building it, and in parallel, let's try and create a plan to kind of get this utilized by the community or like by the government. So we started building the entire thing overnight, and then within around 8 hours, by early 3:30 in the morning, we finished building the whole system that kind of maps all of this out. And then in the meantime, we kind of shared it to some of our influencer friends to see if they could kind of share it. And then at around 3:34 in the morning, I was basically online on Facebook, and then our ex-collector, sir, Prashant Nair, was actually online on Facebook. So I basically sent him a message, sir, we have built something like this. It's currently done for Ernakulam. We can actually scale it to pan all districts in Kerala. So please take a look at it. If you feel it's useful, definitely we can help, bringing this out to the community. So by God's grace, he kind of, replied almost immediately. He was online at that point. He replied, all right, let me take a look at it. And then he kind of connected us to one of his tech persons. And then we shared it with that person, and then back and forth some discussions, and then they felt it very useful. And he was actually working with Compassionate Kerala at that point. And then like a rescue and relief operations, I think, were being planned in Chennai. And during that period, we kind of mapped and collated close to 1 lakh real locations, converted that in physical pins on maps, and then kind of help save close to 35,000 people. So I think the whole mindset there was, let's create this thing, because unless it is created, nobody can evaluate if this is going to be valuable or not. There was a definite gap, but we did not think whether it's going to be used or not. We kind of felt this is something that can add value to the community. We built it out, we gave it, and then the other things kind of followed, is what I feel. So I think it's again about that craftsmanship mindset that we can have, because every one of us are actually creators. We have the ability to create incredible things. It's just that we don't actually do it because we kind of want to be, or like are afraid of that failure thing, because there is, especially growing up in Kerala, you have that social cost to failure. wherein if you fail, people are going to point fingers at you. People are going to kind of tell you, hey, avan thotananu. That's what people are going to say. So we kind of shy away from it, but you have to rise above that, kind of create valuable things to the community. I think that's the primary mindset that we kind of had at that point.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, as an entrepreneur, you may have many fears. How do you deal with those fears?
So I think that is where the team comes in. As I said, like we are 6 people. We are friends from early 2000s. It's like we have known each other for almost 20 years. So 4 of us went to the same school. 4 of us went to the same college. Myself and our CTO went to school and college. It's like a very strong friendship-driven team. So when you have reliable people who know your strengths and weaknesses supporting you, I think that is how you'll tide across failures, because you are bound to fail. As I said during my presentation, this is like a 5-year or a 10-year journey. Where in those 5 years, you're definitely going to have problems. Especially in the first year, it's going to be a struggle. There are going to be things that you think will work, which will not work. So failures are definitely a part and parcel of this game. So, surround yourself with valuable people who kind of can understand your things, understand your problem, support you during that period. And then the next aspect is to ask for help. You are going to fail, but that does not mean you should stop your journey. Find people who have already been there, done that. Ask for their help. From what I understand, whenever we ask for help, we have always got it. So I think there are a lot of successful people in the community who want to kind of help and contribute to this community back. So always ask for help. If you want help in something that you don't know, feel free to go and ask people. What do you have to lose anyway? It's just one email or one phone call, one random message you send. If you get help, great. If you don't get help, ask someone else or try again. So these are 2 things. One is like, surround yourself with people who can be supportive to you, build a good team. And the second one is always ask for help, because there is nobody who knows or who has answers to all the questions. If anybody tells you that, they're lying to you, because nobody can have answers to all the questions. It's just that people know these are X, Y, and Z things that we can fail at, and what you do to survive the failure. So ask help. Those are the 2 things.
Thank you, sir. That would be the end of our question and answer section. So over to Sojan now, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's really wonderful things. And over to Dr. V. Barla, sir, for your observations and comments, please, sir. You may take 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Sojan. It's been a wonderful day again, the second day, and Mr. Santhosh has brought in a lot of Santosham, because he has unfolded the future and told the young boys and girls how the future holds and what opportunities they can grab, and they are fully charged. I think it's a beautiful presentation, one of the best I've come across. And Mr. George has talked about consumer focus, the risk and reward, and many other things. It's been a fascinating advisory kind of stuff from a senior person. And John, of course, has been a John as well as Matthews. He has so much evangelized the cause of entrepreneurship, and he has proved himself to be a carpenter of the entrepreneurship. So thank you, John. Has done a marvelous job. The beautiful concepts like tiny pieces of future, the craftsmanship mindset, the power of compounding, you brought out so well, and with an example in the future. It's really a great day that we all had. Now, 3 things I would just sum up and close. Number 1, yesterday we talked about the speakers being available to students on a continuous basis. Dr. Somnath, Dr. Reddy sir, both of them have agreed. And they also, I feel we should extend that thing to these speakers as well, so that these learned speakers are available to the students on a fixed slot when Dr. Sojan can fix up a Zoom meeting, let's say 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the lunch hour when you're free, or late night 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. You choose the slots and the speakers be available so that students can connect. See, John, a student may be desperate to talk to John, but if he's talking to Sojan or me, he will not be satisfied. We may give any great amount of sermons, but he would speak to John only and then get satisfied. So that facility should be available so that if this forum and this seminar has to be very impactful, I think there must be a sequel, a follow, a continuity of this saga so that students or faculty are benefited out of this mission that we have taken up. Number two, the second point that I would like to mention is all of us seem to be discussing about entrepreneurship and innovation, but entrepreneurship and innovation in what? Should I do entrepreneurship in face powders and lipsticks in India, or should I do entrepreneurship in food, shelter, and clothing? Even if you are an IT guy, it's not that IT is the whole of the world. We do not have to emulate America all the time. We do not have to get intoxicated in software and IT all the time. There is a lot of mechanical engineering, civil engineering, there is chemical engineering, instrumentation, biotechnology engineering, and what have you, aeronautical and whatnot. Innovations are possible in any field, and all the innovations in all the fields should be focused 80% on food, shelter, and clothing, as far as I'm concerned. We are India, we are not America. I would appeal to the people that the innovations, entrepreneurships must come in the field of the food, shelter, and clothing. For the teething millions who are suffering, 80% of India is in villages. It's agriculture. It's about scavenging. It's about whatnot. Therefore, look at your country, look at your people when you are being an entrepreneur, and bring in the entrepreneurship and innovation and creativity to solve the people's problems. Not to please America or not to be a great IT guy or a great programmer and things like this. These are all aids. IT and software is a tool to help us to improve the quality of life ultimately. So I would, my request is to focus on the needs of India and the needs of Indian people. And lastly, the third point I would like to mention is a message to the young crowd here that you do not have to worry about the money, investment, or risk. There is no need for you to worry about risk because there are angel investors, there are venture capitalists, there are the people, there are so many methods of spreading the risk. It is not that you as an young guy is going to bear the risk. You have no risk. Your business is to innovate, create, bring in beautiful ideas, and then somebody else will share the burden of risk, the burden of finance, the burden of leadership, and things like that. It's going to be a team. But the young people should not be held back for want of money or want of risk and want of all these things which traditionally all of us suffered. These guys who are new age, Gen X and Gen Y, must really think about the bringing in of innovations and creativity, solving the people's problems and rural area problems. And then there's no limit for amount of investment and risk bearing which others will come and do it. All governments, all companies, all Indian institutes and whatnot are there to support your ideas. So yesterday itself we mentioned a lot of things about it. So wish you all the best. God bless everybody. Great seminar. Great.
Thank you. Thank you. And now I just request Mr. C.J. Joseph to give any final concluding remarks, sir. We are into the final closing.
Thank you, Dr. Sojan. I was very fascinated by all these presentations. These are all very, very valid arguments and points. There is absolutely no doubt. It makes relevance because I have come through all these, so I could easily connect with all these points. Particularly when I also started with kind of very minimum capital in my business. So it's a very, very interesting platform for students to look at how they can start something new and I'm very glad to join if time permits, and if there is advanced information, I'll be very happy to join and get connected to these students who have some requirements for some advice or help or whatever it is. Not that I am an expert, unlike others who spoke today, yesterday, etc. I'm a businessman. I am not an expert, so I'll be very happy to contribute through any platform that you are organizing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George sir, for the offer of this. And I think we'll come up with some names, but I think in Man Ki Baat, that was title yesterday was given by Dr. Venkat Barla sir. I think we'll also invite you for having a little longer session, because these 25-30 minutes may not be sufficient to convey the message. So we'll have direct interaction with all this. And I think over to Mr. John Mathew for your concluding remarks.
So it's been wonderful. I think primarily, most importantly, I think the students as well as the community who's trying to kind of nurture this whole concept of craftsmanship or creating, being an entrepreneur. I think fundamentally a lot of people think it's about starting a tech company. So I've always felt this, when people talk about Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, it does not relate to us very much, right? But like when we say the next door guy, that is where the whole system should change. Wherein the next door neighbor of ours is doing incredible things. That is a point wherein there will be a revolution. I hope that revolution comes soon, and then India kind of becomes a big thing in the whole world in the industry. So I think that starts again. The little pieces of that starts with the people and the mindset. So I hope we have sparked a lot of that change or like in the mindset among the listeners today, and hopefully a lot of you guys can kind of think and create and then make India proud. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. John, and we are over to Mr. Santhosh Kurup sir for your final concluding remarks, sir.
I am very thankful to be invited here and amongst the elite panelists today. I just have two messages. One is, I know we are all going through a very bad pandemic, and generation that we live in, we are all worried about we being the only generation that had to go through this and how the future will be. I think we should just look at an interesting statistics about the generation that was born in 1900. So between 1900 to 1945, they had the First World War, then the Spanish flu, the Second World War, the Great Depression. Around 45 years that generation struggled. But still, some of the greatest inventions of Industrial Revolution came through that generation. So I think it's not that we are in a tough time, but it is not that we are the only generation that struggled. But the struggles are always an opportunity for us to come out stronger. So I believe this is a great opportunity for young generation to feel stronger. The second little suggestion I have is, I always believe that the past 200 to 250 years will belong to the West. Even before that, India was shining. But I believe that the next 100 years plus belongs to East. And that 100 years, India is going to play a very, very pivotal role. So as youngsters, you are not only growing up as leaders for a community, for a state, or for our country, but you are going to grow as global citizens who has to lead the world, take the world forward. So I believe that is a greater opportunity and exciting opportunity for us, and at the same time a big responsibility. So grow yourself free, grow yourself with the view that you are going to lead the world, not just some small little things as it was in the past, because the next 100 years belong to us and the India. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Santhosh sir. And first of all, my sincere thanks to all the participants who joined across the India, and also particular from various other countries also. And also thanks for Kerala Startup Mission for jointly associating with this. And also Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, ISRO, is also jointly associating with this Baselios Institute of Technology and Science for this international webinar on how to turn engineers to entrepreneurs. And thank you for all the panel members, all the participants, and let us look forward. And as Venkat Barla sir suggested that, we will also continuously try to make some platform to meet our students, particularly from India, and if anybody interested from abroad also. And a grateful day for all of you. And thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. And we are closing down. Thank you very much. Have a nice time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All the best.
Thank you.